We now come to Mishna Masechet Zevachim, perek Mishna Gimel, and now the perek is going to begin focusing on specific types of korbanot, as opposed to the kind of exceptional korbanot that we had in the first two Mishnayot. Mishnah begins, Chataot HaTzibur v'Hayachid. Korban Chatat, whether brought by the tzibur, by the entire community, or the yachid, or the individual. An individual brings a chatat when he sins by accident, and then later discovers that he in fact sinned. This can be found in Vayikra perek Daled. Elohein chataot hatzibur, the chataot hatzibur. When does the entire community bring a korban chatat? So that is the seirei rashei chodashim v'shel moadot. The goat brought as part of the korban musaf on Rosh Chodesh and on moadot on the various chagim. And if you look in Bamidbar, Prakim Kafchet and Kaftet, you will see the listing of all the korbanot musaf brought on these days, and there's always a se'ir izim echad lechatat. So any of these korbanot chatat, either brought by the entire tzibur on Rosh Chodesh or Chagim, or those brought by an individual who has sinned, how do we deal with them? Shchitatan bat safon. They are slaughtered in the north, and as we saw in the last two Mishnayot, the north refers to the Beit HaMitbachayim, the slaughterhouse that was to the north of the Mizbeach. Again, that dark area in the upper right corner is the base of the Mizbeach itself, and the rings, the tables, and the pillars that were to the north of that made up the slaughterhouse area where the animals were slaughtered, dismembered, and dissected. V'kibul daman b'chli sharet batzafon, and the blood would be caught in a kli sharet, in what's called a mizrak, in a bowl belonging to the Beit HaMikdash, in that northern area. V'daman ta'un, the blood needs arban matanot al arba kranot. It needs to have four, literally, gifts, meaning the blood needs to be sprinkled 4 times onto the 4 kranot, the 4 corners or horns of the Mizbeach. And now the Mishnah will show us and explain to us exactly how that happened. Ketzad. How was this done? So, alaba kevesh ufana lesovev. The Kohen who is working with this korban would go from the Beit HaMitbachayim, which we see up here in the upper left, and would come to the kevesh. The kevesh is the ramp. Now, here we see the main ramp up the middle, and kind of a get-off ramp on the side. This image doesn't have it, but on the other side of the big ramp was a small ramp that the Kohen would go up, and would go up to what's called the sovev. And there we see an arrow pointing to the sovev. That's the ledge that's a little bit more than midway up the Mizbeach, and that wraps all the way around the Mizbeach. So the Kohen would go up the small ramp to the sovev. Ubalo lekeren deromit mizrachit. He would first come to the southeastern corner of the Mizbeach and would sprinkle the blood on the keren there. And you see the arrow pointing to that little box sticking up, and that is one of the kranot of the Mizbeach. And you see we have the northeast, south, and west designated on the picture of the Mizbeach. Then the Kohen would go to the Mizrachit Tzfonit, to the northeastern corner of the Mizbeach, and sprinkle the blood on the horn there. Tzfonit Ma'aravit, Kohen would then go to the northwestern corner and sprinkle blood. And finally, Ma'aravit Dromit, to the southwestern corner, and sprinkle blood again on the horn, on the keren. And then the Kohen would be able to come down the ramp on this side of the main ramp, the near side, and shiarei hadam, the leftover blood in the bowl, because again, the Kohen is only sprinkling 4 times, so the leftover blood would be sprinkled, hayash shofech, not sprinkled, would be poured, al yesod dromi, into the southern part of the base of the Mizbeach. That's those 2 drainage holes over there, and they would work out conveniently. The Kohen would come down that small ramp and basically be right by those holes. And now we are, since we're dealing with a korban that is eaten, we get the rules of that. The ne'echalin, the parts of the korban chatat that could be eaten, were eaten lifnim min haklaim, literally within the curtains. But in the Beit HaMikdash, there are no curtains, there are walls, and that means in the courtyard, the azara, as you see designated by the arrow, and written on the bottom, it says lifnim min haklaim, which is the azara, the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash. The Kohanim could eat it anywhere within that area. It would be eaten lezichrei kehuna, by male Kohanim, basically the Kohanim who would work and help to do the avodah for these korbanot would be able to eat from those korbanot. Bechol ma'achal, meaning they could eat the meat prepared however they want. They could broil it, they could cook it in liquid, whatever they wanted, they were allowed to do. And we'll see there are korbanot where you are limited. And they have liyom v'layla ad chatzot. The korban chatat could be eaten for the day on which it's offered and into the following night until chatzot. Chatzot here, even though the clock points to 12 midnight, chatzot is halachic midnight, which is a halfway between the beginning of the night and the end of the night, perhaps halfway between sunset and the following sunrise.